Hello all, hope you're doing well today. So the big news yesterday was this 100-year-old World War II veteran, Alec Penstone I think his name was. He was on morning TV and essentially said if he'd known what Britain would turn into, he wouldn't have bothered fighting, which is a sentiment we've heard many times from people who went to war, his generation. And the woman, I think she's called Kate, she tried to, of course, cover it up with the old, "Oh, so sorry to hear that, Alec." But the diversity hire, forget his name, Adil, I think it is, let the cat out of the bag with regards to how they really think by saying, "What do you mean by that, bigot?" I am, of course, using bigot there for comic effect. Don't want to get sued by the regime. But the general gist of his comments was in that direction, which created a bit of drama online. Of course, to people like Adil, who are the new Britons, the real Britons, don't you know, the tolerant and kind ones, unlike the bigots. I believe history started in 1997 with Tony Blair. So to them, they don't really know what to do when they see a World War II veteran. If I'm honest, my suspicion is the mouthpieces of the Liberal regime are actually quite eager for the war generation to pass on, because then they can fully complete their propaganda about World War II, which basically paints Britain as fighting the Nazis for the multicultural modern liberal state that we supposedly enjoy today. Of course, they weren't fighting for that, whether you view it as right or wrong in this day and age. Men of that era fought for their nation without question. What's the lyric in I Vow to Thee, My Country? The love that asks no questions, the love that stands the test. The war generation were just in a completely different consciousness to the Homo economicus mass man today. They loved nation, homeland, kin, and were willing to fight and die for it if necessary. They valued their people, the tradition of their nation and the hierarchies therein, and would answer the call of their nation, not asking whether it was right or wrong. Of course, in the modern individualistic age, you'd never get such devotion anymore, and this is probably what poor old Alec is referring to. The country he fought for has been systematically dismantled. Case in point, just before Alec's interview with Adil and Kate, Adil was on Twitter stating, "Some say Mamdani, he's the guy who won the election in New York, may implement Sharia law. He might. The heart of Sharia is social justice, welfare, fairness, charity, and cohesion." As well as capital punishment for apostasy, Adil forgot to mention that one for some reason. However, I'm sure all of this inspired Alec when he was storming the beaches in Normandy with his buddies many years ago. "Come on, lads, we need to win this so we can create the multicultural Blairite utopia." Nothing tugs on those heartstrings like the thought of multicultural liberal Britain where we all link arms together. Jaspreet, Ahmed and Tunde, fighting off the menace for Britain.
UK was to go to war, would you join the military?
No.
I'm not from the country, so no.
First of all, I'm not a UK citizen, I'm an immigrant. I'm Welsh.
No, unfortunately not. I'm not from this country originally, you know?
No. We're Irish, so...
We don't like the UK military. No, thank you.
Where are you from?
Brazil.
Do you live here?
Yes.
Would you go to war for this country?
No.
I'm Pakistani, so...
Are you a resident?
I'm a resident. I've got dual nationality.
You guys live in the UK?
Yeah, we do.
Would you join the military?
No, we're not from this country.
If they say it's compulsory, what would you do?
I'll just go back to eat. Go back to my country? Yeah, I'll just go back to my country.
Anyway, I'm just cherry picking here because I'm a bigot. I'm sure the rest of the immigrants would fight, right? I'm sure Fraser Nelson would think they would. He's still on his mission to try and show that modern Britain is a prosperous and safe and wonderful nation, better than it's ever been, according to him. Now, as many people have already pointed out on other channels, what people like Nelson are doing here is taking all crimes en masse to make it look like things are improving, but within that, certain crimes are rocketing. Sexual assaults, for instance, have exploded, and there tends to be a correlation with some of our new arrivals. There's a recent story that broke saying Dorset police have announced that 44% of alleged sex offences in Dorset are carried out by asylum seekers living in asylum hotels. You can also see on this graph that knife crime has increased in the past 15 years, and here that 280,000 crimes went unrecorded last year as well, so make of that what you will. Owen Jones is up to the same grift here. He believes, it's far right if you think modern Britain is getting dangerous, declining and violent. However, dear old Owen does like to put a positive spin on things, doesn't he? I mean, after the mass stabbing attack aboard a train recently, when the news came out that a guy who tried to stop the attack was called Samir from some Muslim country or something, he said this was all part of our rainbow nation. Isn't it all just wonderful? Obviously, Owen doesn't think it's worth mentioning that the attacker himself was also part of our rainbow nation. It was yet another black man going on a mass stabbing rampage. We've had quite a few of those recently, but to them, of course, we'd be bigots for simply noticing that. They don't see colour, don't you know? Unless, of course, it's too many white people, then they definitely see it. Again, is all of this what poor old Alec fought for? I don't think it was. Similarly, I don't think he fought to be ruled over by people like David Lammy, who seems to be hemorrhaging asylum seekers from the prison system at this point. And when he's questioned on it, goes in one of these bizarre, shouty tirades. He's almost just looking for an excuse to, call the guy racist who's questioning him. Things are so bad with regards to immigration. Even the BBC are doing exposés on some of our new arrivals who can basically fix things to make sure people don't get any fines and disappear into the undergrowth. God knows how many people there are out there like that in the country who are doing this. Probably thousands, if not more. And in the ideal of Owen Jones's Rainbow Nation, we're also having record referrals to the Prevent anti-terror program. Of course, a lot of these were Islamic extremism and the far right, quote unquote. I don't know how far right they really are. I dare say half of them are just young people watching Andrew Tate videos. But the most interesting statement in this was this here. In the majority of cases where a type of concern for the referral was noted, most specified no ideology identified or no ideology or the susceptibility radicalization identified. So they're essentially saying that people are being radicalized into nothing. They're being radicalized by the sheer state of modern Britain. Where's Fraser Nelson when you need him? Here he is. Look at his serious face. Look, he's got his graphs and everything. Yeah, that's going to convince everyone and turn the tide for what is a dilapidated modern liberal Britain. Do you also think Alec fought in the war for people like this? He's some Green Party type who lives in the leafy shires, talks about how wonderful diversity is. He states here, transphobia is not normal. Homophobia is not normal. Racism is not normal. Ableism is not normal. Misogyny is not normal. Discrimination is not normal. Just because bigots shout loudly, it doesn't make any of it normal. Yeah, I don't know, mate. I think most of that stuff has been pretty normal throughout human history. I mean, it's only really since the Blairite Revolution, things like the trans madness have really kicked into gear. Not to mention all of these hordes of people that guys like this are so keen on importing tend to hold to these views as well. But again, I'm sure I'm just a bigot and dear old Alec was storming the Normandy beaches with his buddies yelling, for trans people, for gay marriage, so we can ensure that people with mild disabilities can have any car they want on the state. Come on! I mean, nothing inspires a man to face machine gun fire than the thought of mass immigration, replacing your own people in your own homeland, and all of the wonderful food they bring to replace your awful, disgusting English slop. But don't worry, dear old Alec. Zach Polanski's here now to offer the country hope. He's going to fix everything. Here he is prancing around. What on earth is he doing, a bloody cretin? I'm going to say it. He's got a dislikable face, this guy. I know it's mean to say things like that, but he's just got a dislikable face. I don't know if this sort of dancing is cool with the kids or whatever, but I find it absolutely repellent. It makes me shudder. Anyway, we're not in very good straits here in Britain, not just because of old Zach Polanski, but also because of the next generation. On your screen right now is the Leaders of the Future. This is from a youth parliament that was done recently in the House of Commons. And okay, look, they're just kids. You don't want to be mean to kids and all that. And they'll probably look back on this in 10 years and cringe. But I was just thinking when looking at this, just look at the state of them. These people look like they've been heavily radicalized. And if you do actually watch what these kids are talking about, it's clear to see they have been radicalized. I mean, everything they speak about is some social justice issue, and every time one of them makes a point about some niche social justice issue, there is rapturous applause. And again, this is just testament to the education system. These people think they're rebelling against the evil, toxic, right-wing mainstream. In reality, they are basically just programmed robots who are following the exact dictates of the establishment. And so I'll ask again, is this what poor old Alec and his friends fought for? In his lifetime, he's seen himself go to war, fight for a country that he loved, and then he's just seen it systematically destroyed. No longer is it a homeland, no longer is it a cohesive nation. It's simply an economic zone where anybody in the world is just as welcome as anybody else, just as British as anybody else. It's a whiteboard upon which you can draw any ideology that suits our overlords. In closing, I saw this quote doing the rounds on the internet. I think it sums up our present situation. It's by French author Jean Raspail in his novel The Camp of the Saints. He wrote it in the 70s about mass migration into Europe. Quite pressing, you might say. Anyway, quote, "Your universe has no meaning to them. They will not try to understand. They will be tired. They will be cold. They will make a fire with your beautiful oak door." I dare say many of us believe such sentiments sum up why Alec feels that it just wasn't worth it for him and his friends. Anyway, these are my thoughts. Do let me know what you think down below. Do consider subscribing to the channel if you're new.